Welcome to Joey's podcast, Helping Others. And we're here today with Gabby and Mary from Spare Parts. And I'm super excited to have y'all here because y'all are two of the most outgoing people I know, especially in the arts advocacy scene, and art educator scene, and art scene. And I could go on and on because y'all work in multiple spaces. It's not just like y'all just do arts advocacy or y'all just do arts education. I mean, y'all focus on reuse and the reuse of materials, and y'all go all the way to that end where it's like no longer you're talking just about art, but like about reuse and the importance of reuse. And then y'all are both artists, you know, y'all both make art. And I know it's funny talking to arts advocates because you always tell them that they're artists and they're always like, but they secretly don't know that we all know that they're artists, even though they don't think of themselves as such. But anyways, see, they smile, they know what's up. But anyways, so I got to know Mary and Gabby through Spare Parts and then through the Mini Art Museum. And I met Mary 3 times before realizing that we had met previously twice. And
never gets old.
It never gets old. And then Gabby I met through Spare Parts and the Mini Art Museum, and we've worked on a slew of projects together. We're here at Dreamanoids today. We've even had a Mini Art Museum event here, and we had people from all over San Antonio come and do some LED art, I think is what we did that day. And then we had the Mini Art Museum on display. I always am telling people about y'all's initiatives, and I would normally like talk about them, but I'll let y'all talk about them because like that's what y'all do. But like I go on and on and on because to me you all cover so many spaces, both geographically in terms of the types of spaces and then types of audiences. Like you all really have a breadth. Like yesterday I was at the climbing gym at Armadillo Boulders and I was talking to a yoga instructor, and she's doing her PhD in counseling, and she was talking about like arts therapy in the prison system. And I was all like, I have friends that do that with juveniles. Like, that's so cool. Like, they have like a formal program and like blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And so I don't know. Y'all work in really cool spaces, and it's always made me really excited. So I didn't know if maybe y'all could tell my audience like how y'all got into this a little bit, and either one of y'all can go first. I will say at Armadillo Boulders I had the 2 people that started it introduce each other. It was pretty funny to watch, but I won't make y'all do that unless y'all are compelled to do so.
That'd be interesting.
That would. Well, this is
Should we
Gabriela
try it?
Santiago.
Yeah. Okay.
And Gabriela and I met through an internship program at Art Pace almost 10 years ago.
Our friendiversary, 10 years.
10 years.
What is that? Is that is there cake or
is it paper?
Silver?
Paper or
anyway.
jade? We'll have to figure that out. Let us know in the comments below. So Gabriela was at Texas State looking for an internship opportunity in art education, and I oversaw the internship program at Art Pace San Antonio, and she came on board, and we like had the similar philosophies of art education, and I echo what you were saying about how we see like holistically what is going on, and the people come with the art. It's not art on a pedestal. We make it very accessible, and again, it's all about, I know we always say the word community, but it's really about getting to know people, connecting with them, allowing them to be creative and expressive and giving them that supportive environment. That's what Gabriela Santiago does, and I wouldn't have another partner to be with for so long, both as a friend and a colleague, because we bounce ideas off each other really well, and she is so like creative and intelligent. That's how I would introduce Gabriela Santiago.
Yeah, thanks. Well, this is Mary Elizabeth Cantu. And I met her as a young woman, well, myself as a young woman who was looking for opportunities outside of the classroom to engage in art education. And as the education director or programs director at Art Pace, Mary really showed me all the different ways that you could engage with community with art education. So for instance, I think during the time that I was in San Antonio for my internship, there was the pushcart derby going on, and she inspired me to enter a pushcart.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And so here was this event that was happening in the middle of a neighborhood in a park, in a part of town that was considered not a place that you went to go visit, a very transitional neighborhood. And you had an artist and Mary as kind of like a community liaison, bringing people to the park with pushcart derbies, which is, if you don't know, is like a very rasquache vehicle that you push down a hill. It's got wheels, like four wheels, 3 wheels, 2 wheels, whatever, floats your boat. You decorate it. It can be made out of anything. Push it down a hill. I'm surprised no one ever got hurt. They make a route, and then whoever does it the quickest wins a trophy. Anyway, it was very inspiring to see art so integrated into a community event. And this was happening with pretty much everything Mary touched. So I just kind of followed her. Then we lost touch because I moved away for a little while, and when I came back into town, it was just, we reconnected. And like she said, we've always worked really well together, and we're good at bouncing ideas off one another, and the follow-through is there also, which is really important. And so we started continuing our work and friendship relationship until here we are today.
And in 2013, we founded the Mini Art Museum to answer the question, when a school doesn't have time for fine art or museum or creative opportunity, what happens when they don't have finances or a bus, time, for whatever reason. It was the summer of 2013 where we founded the Mini Art Museum.
And Spare Parts, you founded Spare Parts a few years before that. So what year did you start?
2011.
2011.
And you were there too, working and volunteering.
And Mary was answering the question of, as someone who's been in the classroom as an art teacher, how can you make art without the resources? And so how can we reuse things to make art? How can we make art accessible without needing to always go out and buy new things to make art, but we could actually use everything and anything that was in front of us
and that's
as an art making material.
Exactly, and that's where Joey says that art is not necessarily where we reside, because it's really about the environment and what the environment allots us, and how to be very savvy with the things that we have, and rethinking how we use the things around us to be productive and not trash the environment or add more to landfills.
Yeah, and like one of the things that I kind of latched onto and got involved with you all over a series of years was the arts giveaway. What was the official name?
Oh, the Fine Arts Fair Materials Giveaway.
The Fine Arts Fair Materials Giveaway.
Is that can we make that an acronym?
We can try.
FMG. F cubed MG.
Yeah.
Yes.
F3MG.
F3MG.
And so this thing was like totally foreign to me in that I had no idea what I was going to. I just knew to show up and take photos and video. And then when I actually showed up and saw what it was, like, when, my podcast is like based around helping others. And so, again, like I say this a couple times about people I've wanted to interview, or how I came up with the theme for this podcast. And it's you all are it. Like, you all are the people that like were in my head when I was like, helping others. Like, I know people that I can interview because of this event that you all had, because it didn't need to happen other than that you all made it happen, and then it became something that made sense. But before that, it wasn't like somebody was going like, this needs to happen, this needs to be there. But when you did it, people obviously saw the value in it.
So can you describe to everyone who's watching and listening right now what you're talking about from your perspective?
Okay.
Because we could describe
Right.
it, but you, like you said, came in
Yeah.
from hearing about it,
So it's funny because
but from an outsider's perspective.
many things I always tend to latch on to. Like, I come in from like a really odd vector, meaning like this one, it was like, I can shoot some photos and video. But then, when I got there, I learned, okay, I was like, okay, they're gathering stuff. And I was like, what is this stuff? And I start looking around, and it's like, old paper towel rolls, like just bins of crayons, bins of markers, bins of poster board, bins of like old teaching materials, bins of notebooks and coloring pads and construction paper and bottle caps and just all kinds of stuff. I mean, literally just all kinds of stuff, but it was curated. It wasn't just like all thrown into a bin. It was like literally everything was organized. And so I was like, so what happens here? And everybody's like, well, people show up and they like pay to like get to go through this stuff because a lot of them are art teachers in San Antonio, in the greater area of San Antonio, because people would come from outside of San Antonio, like Helotes and Bandera and like, surrounding areas, Devine, Floresville, just
Short
going out,
Cibolo.
Yeah, Cibolo.
Shout out to Pleasanton.
I was gonna say Pleasanton.
Somerset.
Somerset.
Yeah, exactly.
Medina Valley.
Yeah.
Judson.
Von Army.
Hey, yeah.
Von
And
Ormy.
so-
My heart's in Von Ormy.
I know.
That's where I taught.
Yeah.
Somerset.
Yeah. So, and we're joking, but we're not joking because they really
we
did
are,
all come
because
from
they all do
those
come.
areas, and they paid $10. And so my job, like, I made my job was to get photos and video, but like what I like to do is I like to talk to people. And so I would like, well, first of all, I was like, well, how many people would even show up to something like this? And then it was like, like 100, 200 people. And I'm going and like getting photos down the line. And then I'm just going and asking people like, so why are you here? And, there'd be like this woman with a suitcase, literally this big, and then another suitcase that big. And she was like, well, this is where I get my art supplies, because it's like, for $10, I can come into this space and I can get everything I need for a year. And it's just amazing. Like, there's no resource like that. And this is all reused materials, like materials that were either going to be discarded or recycled. And now they're being reused again. And so like the value in it like just hit so many different levels of like helping other people that I was like, my mind blew up. And that's why I was like, okay, I got to go to every single one of these. And so I went to every single one and until you all kind of transitioned to just kind of doing this year round and literally placing materials with different donors to different teachers that would just send in requests. And getting to kind of see that network build where so many people knew about you all that somebody could post up and say, I don't know, like I posted up and said I had, I don't know how many it was like 500 Topo Chico bottles, and somebody was like, I need those, and I was like, all right. So it's stuff like that. So I don't know, that was my perspective.
I think, it's invaluable. It's such an easy event, though, in a way.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is curated and sorted, and everything needs to look nice and inspiring. But I think at that point, I realized that we all can get. You don't need to have a lot of money to give. We can all do something to help each other out. And it's a win-win-win for everyone who's participating, and the environment is like, thank you. Thanks for helping out, because there is so much stuff out there, and spare parts is sort of like a connector, a hub, a broker, whatever you want to call it, for things that people need, and connecting them to the people who need them, because there are matches that are made all the time through spare parts.
Well, I think a fun thing too about the materials giveaway is how creative teachers get. So then you have a teacher that picks up 200 vinyl tabs, that are left over from a company that sells vinyl, and these are their samples. And they take them one year not knowing what to do with them. And then I saw teachers come back the following year looking for those things. I need those vinyl tabs. Now I can't live without those vinyl tabs.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden something that was waste actually becomes like a coveted material, like something that you have your eyes out for. And then the nice thing is, okay, this year we don't have vinyl tabs. Well, maybe I can do the same project with fill in the blank. And so it starts to, be more about divergent thinking. What can we do with these materials? How can I fix, or how can I solve this problem or
Make
this
something
challenge
happen,
with the materials that are presented here?
Which then transfers to, outside of that giveaway, that intersection between running of the bulls and Black Friday and supermarket sweepstakes, but everyone is kind to each other. And how can I then apply my creative thinking skills, my divergent thinking skills, in the classroom or at home, or when I'm walking, or when I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna do something this month. And that's when those aha moments, those times where you feel really good that you were able to accomplish something without feeling like you needed something or something was missing, happens, and it's a feel-good event in so many ways.
Yeah, and the relationship building and the idea sharing, that's the part of it that makes me feel really good, when teachers get the opportunity to share their creative ideas with one another.
And supporting them, because I don't think teachers get as much support as I think they need.
Yeah, and the other thing, and I could be wrong about this, I'm just an outsider, but I feel like, especially as an arts teacher, you're often the one person on that campus. I mean, if you're in a I don't know, I've never heard of a campus that has two art teachers other than like high school, of course, maybe, but like from a early childhood or middle school, most have one, so it's a pretty solo job in terms of you being on there. It's not like you have your team meetings in TEACS planning with your whole group or something like that. And so, kind of having a network of teachers that you meet when you go to these events, to me, like, tended to kind of just have a really positive feel when everybody was there, because everybody was sharing what they were going to do, like in line or while they were looking about, I needed these because I'm going to be doing this. And someone's like, oh man, I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah. There's enough here, right, for both of us, right? And the curriculum kind of gets shared at that point. And to me, that was like a really cool moment. And then the other things that y'all have done that's always impressed me is that y'all have always tried to like take whatever it is you're doing, whether it's like a spare parts event or a mini art museum show, and y'all have always tried to kind of push it into different spaces. Like, can y'all talk a little bit about that? And what I mean by that, so that is, I'm not trying to like sneak something out of y'all's, like, I mean, just kind of like how y'all took it from being in the classroom or being at an art show, specific venue, to taking it to community events and things like that.
I feel like the Bexar County Juvenile Justice System, so we've done a lot of work with them, and the Mini Art Museum had a workshop there. And so the Mini Art Museum, if we weren't clear about it already, is basically a small exhibition space that is in binders or hardcover books that can fold up really easily and travel to different locations. So rather than have to go to a museum can come to your classroom or come to your library or show up at a park. And all the works are original pieces, but they're small so that they can travel. And we give docent-led tours, so someone's there to kind of like talk to you about the artwork. There's gallery guides, exhibition materials, so you really have a authentic museum experience somewhere outside of a museum. So the Bexar County Juvenile Justice kiddos, they created miniature works of art, and I think this workshop was with Mary. Mm-hmm. And we created a gallery guide for their exhibition, and these were all created at the correctional facility. And then there was an opening at the probation courts facility, which is maybe 10 miles north of the residential facility that the students, I believe, got to attend. And then their exhibition traveled throughout San Antonio. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of mobility and movement and entering different spaces and different voices entering different spaces that might not have otherwise. Mm-hmm. Because of that exhibition. So that, I feel like, is a good example of how the Mini Art Museum can move voices and then also move itself throughout different spaces. Another
unique location. I mean, there have been
so many
unique locations, from a vet, outside of a veterinary hospital, to in a bar, to on we flipped over plastic tubs and put it on like a Rubbermaid plastic tubs on a corner after school got out in Arizona, and just invited parents and kids on their way home. But I think for me, if there was a most memorable place that I had the honor of installing an exhibition, was between it was in Edinburgh, Scotland this year. I don't remember. Was it this year?
It was this year.
Was it this year? Okay.
Yeah.
And we were on a street, and I was between someone that was giving haircuts to homeless people, and on the other side was feeding whoever, there was just 2 hot plates, and people were just making food and giving it out. And me being in the middle and being like, hey, I'm from San Antonio, Texas, and check out the Mini Art Museum. We have this great work, it's called Un poco de todo, and that means a little bit of everything. And how many times would you be able to have a museum and feel welcome in a space like the Mini Art Museum, in the middle of getting someone's haircut, getting your haircut done, getting your hair did, and eating for free.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's what the Mini Art Museum was at that moment, and it felt so good. Mm-hmm. It did.
And I guess to kind of fill in the gap there, and y'all have done a lot of schools.
Yes.
Yes. We have had, I think at this point, over 17,000 visitors. I couldn't tell you on the top of my head how many schools we've visited, but it's a lot.
Yes, it's a majority.
We have definitely have hit every district in San Antonio, and outside of San Antonio, and quite a few places between LA and San Antonio on a road trip that we took. And then Edinburgh and Colombia, South America.
Yeah.
And Europe.
Venice Biennale.
Wow.
Showed up.
What's up? We were there.
Dang.
So yeah, it's been pretty much
everywhere. So as individuals, what kind of reflective advice do you have to people that try and help other people? Because a lot of times, we sit here and someone will watch this and be like, oh man, they just so successful. They just did this. It was so easy. And a lot of times, people know that have listened to my podcast starting, because I don't know if y'all see my podcast, but my first podcast, and if y'all haven't seen them, they really lay out where I'm at in life. I talk about how I had to live with my sister for a while, and talk about being jobless and all these things I've had to go through in order to be where I'm at today. And so, I one of the things that's interesting about doing arts advocacy is that it's in my opinion, it's one of the most rewarding things I've seen people do but it's also like one of the hardest things I see people do because it's so tied to passion, and most passion things are very hard to quantify. And this day and age, like everybody wants things quantified. And so I don't know. I was just kind of wondering if you were to kind of, reflectively look at like what you've had to do what you do. Like what do you think some of those things are?
Do you want to start?
I know it's a tough question.
Well, I mean, it's tough, but I've never been so rich in experiences and lucky and blessed with meeting people, and being excited about what we're doing, and trying to control myself from texting Gabriella at like 3 a.m. I think I'm getting better at doing that, just because when you find your tribe, or you find your people, you just grow more and more with them. And so that's something I think if there was a recipe, finding or telling people what you're interested in or what gets you excited, but that doesn't mean that I'm working other jobs to make this happen. I've reprioritized what's important in life, because I've had the full-time job with benefits before, and it was nice, but it didn't fulfill me like it's what I'm doing right now. So I wouldn't change anything for what I'm doing right at this moment, although it does really get tough, and I do have to figure out how things are going to work at the end of the month. But the ways that we've been able to interact and experiences we have are, I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Yeah.
And I think it can be really challenging. I think also I don't know if you would consider yourself this, Mary, but like we're visionaries, I think that's what they call them. People who have ideas and who are really good at getting started.
Yes.
And that's really the fun part. And I think that's where, so much about Spare Parts and Mini Art Museum has evolved, because we just took one step forward. With an idea, and we got started, and then it just grows and multiplies, and someone else comes with an amazing idea, and that person kind of joins the tribe, and it just continues, and that's kind of like how that has worked throughout the years. So if I had advice to anyone about how to get started helping others, it would be just to get started. Someone told me the other day, ideas are cheap. And I was like, that's really true. I feel like we could sit around all day and just like have idea after idea after idea. But I think something that I see in you, Joey, and I definitely see in you, Mary, is that you have a good idea and you're just like, okay, step one, let's do it. Let's try it.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Well, and that's like, that's how I started my podcast, because so many people were like, well, how are you going to start it? What's the format going to be? What equipment are you going to use? Like, are you going to have like a setup and blah, blah. And I was just like, I'm just going to get my headphones and plug it into my phone and just like take video of me, and it will come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is going to be like podcast 18.
Yeah, and I also
it's been like 1 month.
Yeah.
And I also think like not every idea is gonna be viable or gonna last for forever, and that's okay. I think that's another thing it's just get started. And
iteration. Iteration is really important. I think as somebody who curates, as somebody who facilitates, and then as someone that's like an artist or a producer, I am guilty of it myself, was that I want perfection. I want it to go perfect the first time. And the answer is that it rarely ever does. And even when like you've done something perfect, and then you look at it 5 years later and you're like, what was I thinking? Like, that was not perfect. There was this wrong and that wrong. And I was talking to an artist friend the other day, and And he was saying the same thing. You go back. He plays guitar and bass and sings, and he would like listen to his music then, and then also I was talking to Stan Renard, who y'all haven't met, but is a sweetheart. He runs this thing called Music Biz Day, and it's free, and it's about the music industry in San Antonio. And like the last one he had 1,000 people show up to it.
Wow.
From all over the music scene, like all different colors of people, all different ages.
That's incredible.
Like female, male, like it's crazy. And he he said the same thing. It's just like it's just kind of one of those things where he just had to start. Like that was like his third one, and his first one was like very kind of just rough and figuring it out. But you kind of start doing it, and the people will follow. But it doesn't always go that way. There's other projects you undertake and do, and
San Antonio is such a great, fertile, sapped city for trying out things. I don't know if you agree or Joey,
well, people
but
are very giving in San Antonio, very open to sharing, giving of their time and their resources and their talent. I find that you can always find someone to help you do what you need to get done.
Yeah, I think because y'all know I'm critical of San Antonio. I know I do helping others, but like I think San Antonio, while it has a hard time giving us the financial resources, there are so many people in need that if you take it upon yourself to kind of grease that space of like finding that money, when you do go to help other people, it's like amazing what can happen. Because most people may or may not know that San Antonio, 50% of San Antonio lives either at or near poverty. And so when I did the GIS data, it's like the west side, the east side, the south side of San Antonio all have high needs. And that's not to say that there aren't people on the north side that need help, but there's just so many that are on the west, east, and south side. And so watching you all, I'll drive out. I think we drove out to East Central High. I met you all to go do some programming, which is like way on the, not just on the east side, like downtown, but like on the east side, like rural.
Where there's farm,
rural east side.
Because
a lot of people don't know about San Antonio is that, we're 416 square miles. And so what people think of as downtown or like the city is really just one part of this greater area, which you all know because you all drive all over. Like you worked in Somerset and for those of y'all that don't know what we're talking about, just go to Google, look at San Antonio, and you'll see like what we're talking about. You can just switch to satellite view, and you'll see just it's all green and much more not even suburban, but more rural looking spaces that are in the city limits. And so that's what really kind of like blew my mind about Spare Parts is that y'all serve so many different areas, and y'all are very conscious of that, and the people that have helped y'all do that as well, like they're from all over town. And y'all have been so much more of an advocacy based group than a charity based group. So it's not like you all have like donors that just give money and go forth and do this stuff. It's like you have people that are giving money, but you also have people that just give a lot of time and want to go into the communities and work. And you have, and maybe you can speak on this, you have arts educators. What's that about?
We have, so you mentioned a while back that we stopped doing this annual summer giveaway right before the school year for teachers to get ready for the new year. We stopped doing that because it takes about 9 months to plan that kind of event. It was a volunteer effort on all of our behalf, and we decided that if we wanted to create a sustainable organization, we had to go nonprofit 501c3, and we had to stop the giveaway because our end goal is to have a center where we can be doing this kind of materials support 24/7 year round. So that's paused, but what happened was, because everyone was excited about the vinyl squares and the whatchamacallits and the things that don't have names, people wanted to hire us and figure out what to do with all of these things. And so no one was doing that in San Antonio. No one was saying, hey, let's make something super exciting using cardboard. Remember that exhibition?
Yeah.
You know, it was incredible what those students were able to do with just cardboard and that weird odd shaped exhibition space where we built this tree. It's incredible. So our programming became so there was such a demand for it that we, Gabrielle and I, oversee 14, 15 educators. Now this is pretty incredible, I will say, because we are non-salaried staff, and we have an office space the size of a
Pinto.
This table,
Just
pretty much.
kidding.
very small, yes,
Yeah.
very petite, cozy office where we do admin, and then we have a space where we hold materials for these programs. So to have 14 incredible, bright, creative, caring people that want to go out and preach or talk about how trash is a failure of imagination and challenge people to rethink the things around them is, I mean, we couldn't ask for a better team of humans to work with. I mean, it's just been an honor to learn from them.
Yeah, I mean, before we really got the hi-fi store going, if y'all remember, we actually had we hosted a training here.
That's right.
And it was so
That's
cool
right.
it was when the space was all black. We'd have this wall that you'll see behind. There's like a whole nother space. Yeah, it was a really big space, and we spent like half a day here, and I got to watch you all train people how to do these.
And you taught a workshop.
Yeah, I did.
on
Now that I think
photography.
about it, yeah, I did teach a workshop on photography. It was iPhone photography.
Yes.
It was fun. But yeah, and just the people that came were just amazing, and I don't know, you'll have so many. It's funny. It's like, as long as my podcast is, we can't cover everything y'all do, because y'all have the Mini Art Museum gift store, and that could be a whole show.
That would
and
be
we have
that would be fun. We could.
Then
bring
we
it
have the
next
spare
time.
parts store that y'all, a pop-up shop that opens up.
Yeah.
Y'all do Fifth Fridays.
Well, we started the new toy repair cafe or
Yeah, I
clinic.
saw that.
Yeah, which is a lot of fun.
I gotta check that out.
Oh, it's
so
really
people come and
great.
repair their toys.
They come
or y'all have toys that they can repair.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So much fun.
So no, I mean, I just I really like what y'all are doing. I don't know. Do y'all have anything y'all want to plug?
Ooh. Well, what can we plug? So the Mini Art Museum, actually, we just started a membership program.
Oh wow.
So now you can officially be a member, Mini Art Museum member.
MAM.
And we have
Love
a
it.
individual, household, student, only $5 for students, so everyone can be a member. You don't
Yeah.
have to have money to be a member. And also pets. So if you have a loved one, a furry, feathered, scaly friend that wants to be a member, we also have memberships available for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the newest update with the Mini Art Museum. And we'll be having a new exhibition in March for Contemporary Art Month. And we currently have an exhibition that features a Berlin/Oakland-based artist, Tracy Snelling.
Oh wow.
Which is it's incredible, sculpture/installation and a video piece that's on a iPhone -0. It's
Okay.
like a 3-pound iPhone from when iPhones were invented.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, my shameless plug for the for Spare Parts and Mini Art Museum is I am a member of giving to the
You are
to
a
Spare
recurring
Parts.
donor. Thank
And
you.
I'm a big believer in recurring donations. So even if you just have $1 to give a month, or I give $50 a month, whatever you can, it is deeply appreciated and goes to some really cool events.
It does.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to include some links to like some of the stuff that y'all have done over the years in my description so people can check it out.
Great.
Because I really believe in what y'all are doing, and I just see, or I've seen the impact, and I see the future impact of what y'all can do. So thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's
All
my
right.
first podcast.
Yay!
Bye.